The loneliness epidemic is real. If you're someone who feels lonely or you struggle to make friends, you just struggle to socialize, then this is going to be a video for you, right? I'm going to break down my experiences with it, but also the very simple and somewhat easy solutions. It's going to be challenging to a degree, don't get me wrong, but it's actually once you go through a little bit of challenge with this, you're going to come out the other end and realize it was actually easy once you just break past the initial discomfort. So bear with me while I explain this. So if you're someone who basically either doesn't have a lot of friends or even has friends, but you still feel quite lonely, you don't really feel like you've got true friendship. You don't feel like you're connected with people you really love and care about, or there's just a bit of a disconnect with your friendship group, or you are basically celibate, you don't date, you don't, go out dating, you don't have a girlfriend or boyfriend, but you want to deep down, or any of the above, or all of the above, then the biggest issue really in your life is that you're avoiding putting yourself in situations where you can finally overcome that, right? I'm not here to judge you for feeling lonely or for having social anxiety or being afraid to, speak to people or engage with new people, or, basically put yourself out there. But at the same time, if I don't make this video, you're just going to keep continuing to be in the same situation because there's a lot of people making content that are basically almost justifying, like making it okay, or at least giving explanations as to why the world is fucked, and like it's almost okay to be where you're at, and it's got nothing to do with you. But in fact, it has everything to do with you. It's everything to do with the way you perceive other people, the way you feel towards other people, and ultimately your fear of engaging with other people. Because maybe you fear rejection, maybe you fear judgment, maybe you fear just looking or acting weird, right? You basically just fear other people's judgment, right? And that's completely normal. That's completely fine, right? It's not necessarily fine if it's really taken over your life, but everybody deals with that. Even the people that you see who are super social, super extroverted, you know, you look at them and you think they've got no problems whatsoever socially, and maybe you're jealous of them, or maybe you even hate them, the traditional Chad or the frat boy or whatever, those people care about what people think. Those people care about rejection. They care about being judged. They just don't care as much. And also their care and their fear of rejection and judgment, it shows up in different ways. Maybe they're able to socialize a lot and maybe they say, "Oh, move on to the next one." Or maybe they're not able to create deep relationships because they fear that type of rejection. Or maybe it's just, yeah, not as much of a big deal, but it's still going on. Like it's what I'm trying to say is I'm trying to normalize that everybody feels scared of some type of rejection, judgment, and people thinking you look weird, people thinking that you're not, like, just kind of like, outcasting you, on a kind of like more extreme case. So with that said, you can be extremely social even if you still have that lingering round inside you. You do not need to get rid of your social anxiety. You do not need to get rid of your fear. You do not need to get rid of your, apprehension of being judged. You literally can keep it all if you really want to, right? But through this process, a lot of it will just fall away to the wayside. You may keep 10, 20% of it, but a lot of it will fall away. But it's not going to fall away. You're not going to get rid of it by living a life where you're not putting yourself in situations where you're going to be social, right? Like, honestly, like, guys, especially, I find, will do anything, literally anything, to not speak to a girl that they fancy. anything, man. They'll create a whole lifestyle to avoid saying hello or just engaging with a girl that they fancy. They will do anything, man. They will get jobs. They will set up a lifestyle. They will choose hobbies. They will do things to make sure they're not around girls that they would like because, well, they're afraid. And again, it's fine to be afraid. But what's not fine is if you actually do want to be social and you do want a girlfriend or you just want to, not even like, I'm not even talking about like being a player and having sex with a bunch of women. Or if you're a woman, like being super social, the most extroverted person in there, like putting yourself out, like, and being the center of attention in every room you stand in, right? That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about, the real issue is just the inability to engage with girls or guys or whoever it is that you like, that you would actually like to either be in a relationship with or just to have a good interaction with, a conversation, right? Just to share a little moment, just to have a little bit of fun, have a just a conversation, you know? So like imagine like you go through your whole life and you just never have that. At that point, like it in some ways it is about sex and like just we have that in us. But at another level, it's just the inability to just not be able to talk to someone. Like that is like one of the main, if not the biggest issues in your life if you can't do that. It just is. But then you will set yourself up. You will distract yourself basically. You will create a life where you're basically avoiding that most of the time. And then you will justify to yourself the reason you're not social, the reason you don't have a lot of friends, or the reason you don't speak to girls or guys or whoever it is because they're just not around. Your lifestyle is just not like conducive of that. Well, the question is, why is your lifestyle not conducive of that? Well, it's because you've created it intentionally to make sure that you don't have to put yourself in those situations. It's literally that simple. So, what's the solution? Like, what can we do? What are the small little steps that we can start to actually take to actually get out of that? Well, start putting yourself in social situations. First of all, again, do not put yourself don't try to be perfect, don't try to get rid of anxiety, don't try to get rid of fear, just allow it to be there. Literally just be like, okay, this may stick around for a while, I don't know when it's going to go, I don't know when it's going to it's going to dissipate, I don't know when I'm going to be extremely confident, if that's even possible at all. That doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter right now at this stage. All you need to do is start putting yourself in social situations, right? Because imagine this, you take someone who's very anxious, socially anxious, has a lot of fear of rejection, etc. And you take this another person who has the exact same amount of that, if not more. And then this person puts themselves in social situations maybe once a week. And even in those social situations, maybe they go out with their friends that they're friends with for a while, and they basically do very little to no, situations where they're engaging with new people. And especially, honestly, if you're a guy, engaging with girls that you fancy, right? So if you're never doing it, compared to the guy who's very afraid, more afraid than this guy, but they just put themselves in social situations and in situations where they can talk to girls and guys and anybody 4 or 5 times a week. Within a month, within a week, within 2 weeks, you will be more social than the other guy. It's obvious. You will have less loneliness within a couple of weeks. You will feel more confident, I guarantee you, within a couple of weeks, a month. Again, your fear won't go away completely. You'll still have fear of rejection, all of that stuff, if you have it now, but you will be more social, right? And then as you start to do that, the next kind of step, the first step is literally just put yourself in situations where you're social. Say yes to every single social event. Go out of your way to be social. Join hobbies. Go out with your friends. Make plans with friends to go places where there'll be new people, right? Go out on a night out, right? Don't hide in your house, afraid to socialize. Go out. Put yourself in social situations. In the week when you're not going out, you're not drinking or whatever, you're not like going out with friends, like partying, join clubs where there's people that you can engage with. Just do anything you can to be more social without requiring yourself to be extremely confident in those situations. Do not try to change yourself. All you have to do is change your situation, like just change the environments you're in. Just make sure you're around more people is the basic principle. The second step is this. Just look people in the eye and just say hello. Just say, "Hey, how's it going?" Look people in the eye and say, "Hey, how's it going?" And if that's all you do, that's all you do, right? But it's just getting used to being the initiator. Because look, at a certain point when you're very social, or even just when you're not, there will be other extroverted people that will engage you, right? It's probably happened to you. Probably the only time, if you're very kind of anxious socially, probably the only time you speak to new people is when people engage you, right? Not when you engage them first. So the second step is getting used to being the first mover, being the one that engages someone else, being the one that, puts himself out there, engages the other person, right? That's it. You just look them in the eye, you say, "Hey, how's it going?" Or whatever. It doesn't have to be, "Hey, how's it going?" That's the thing, right? It could be literally anything. You could look the other person in the eye, "Yo, love your top. That's so cool," right? A compliment about their style, if you like style. If, you know, just like the first thing that comes to mind, basically. And again, this is going to be easier if you're going into situations like hobbies and clubs where people are wanting to be a bit more social. People are used to being social in those situations. You have a shared interest. That's going to be the easiest way. And then if you're you're going bars and clubs and stuff with your friends, then in that situation, again, people are wanting to be more social. It's not like, people are walking down the street to their job, they're lost in their phone, and then you're having to like go, "Hey, how's it going?" And then it's like it's to a lot of people that's going to be a strange situation for you to approach them, even though it's completely possible and it can be very normal to do that, and it works a, a lot because no one does it. But you don't even have to start there. You just like go to social situations where it's normal to be social and then be the first mover. Engage with them. Do not wait for people to engage with you. And again, if you're afraid, if you're anxious, be the anxious engager. Be the person who is anxious but engages anyway. You know what that is? That's motherfucking courage. Who the fuck would have the balls to do that? Who? No one. Here's the thing, right? You almost imagine there's a bunch of people out there that are super social, super confident, that are engaging, tons of people they know. Usually, even the most social people are afraid to talk to strangers and afraid to be the first mover, right? They're usually people who have big friendship groups because they're friends of friends. And so it's easier that way, or they're joined a lot of clubs and it's easier that way. There's not that many people, I would hazard a guess, that are comfortable engaging with strangers. So again, you don't need to be comfortable. You can be anxious, but you're just going to do it anyway. Then when you start to engage with people, and again, the goal is not to have a long conversation or to get a girl's number or to go on a date or for things to go amazingly well, right? Or to make a new friend like in an instant. The goal is what? Just to be the first engager. That's the goal. The goal is the action itself, right? Then the third step is once you've started to put yourself in situations where it's more social, you've started to be the first engager, then you just start to like get used to carrying on the conversation, basically, right? You just get used to like kind of treating new people as if they're a friend, right? So if someone responds to you, you engage them first, then they respond, then you throw something back out. Then they respond, then you throw something back out again, like you would with a friend. And so you just get used to being the person that initially carries the conversation, right? Carries the interaction. It doesn't even have to be like a conversation necessarily in certain situations. It could be like, you're out, you're socializing, you're at a bar or club, and, everybody's dancing, and then you're just a person that keeps looking at everybody, doing a funny little dance, right? Say occasionally saying something out, and then just basically you get used to engaging with everybody, looking at people, making funny faces or doing cool dances, dancing with people to the left of you, dancing with people to the behind you, just being like the person that's like trying to have fun and trying to, engage with everybody. Then at a certain point, there's going to be a crossover where some people are going to be like, this person's cool. I like this person. They're funny or whatever. I like their vibe. And then people are going to start to engage with you back. Then, honestly, there'll be a crossover where you're not even trying that much anymore. You're not being, you've engaged. Some people start to engage back because they realize no one's doing this, right? This person's cool. So let me invest, basically. Let me be like, yo, because again, everybody's waiting for someone to come along. If everybody's dealing with loneliness to a degree, if everybody's dealing with fear of rejection to a degree, if everybody's dealing with social anxiety to a degree, some people more than others, then if you come along with fear kind of inside you, but you just go first anyway, you engage with someone, that's what they've been waiting for. Just like you. You've been waiting for the perfect situation to come along where imagine this is like the perfect scenario for someone who has social anxiety, who like they see a girl, they're like, wow, she's so pretty. The perfect scenario for you is that girl sees you and starts a conversation with you and starts to carry on the conversation first. And then you just naturally would want to continue the conversation, right? That's what they're waiting for as well. Guy, girl, whoever it is. That's what everybody's waiting for. Most people want to be social, and most people have things holding them back from being social. And so if you're the first mover, people are going to be hyped. The fact that you engaged. Now, don't get me wrong. It doesn't mean people aren't going to reject you. Doesn't mean people aren't going to like kind of like brush it off or not engage back with you. If you kind of come in with a bit of energy that's off, or like you don't actually fully kind of continue the conversation and carry the conversation in the beginning, right? People are just going to be like, oh yeah, and then they'll go back to what they are. But if you continue it, then they'll keep going. And if they don't, that's completely fine. That's, they haven't rejected you per se. They don't want to carry on the conversation. That's cool. That's their life, right? Let them do what they want to do. It's nothing really against you, right? They don't know you. They don't know who you are. They've experienced a split second of your interaction. Maybe they felt a bit of off energy because you're anxious. That's not you as a whole, right? That's just you in that very small moment. So don't take it personally. Just move on. And then maybe later on, maybe if it's someone at the club that you're going to, the hobby that you're going to, you have a conversation, it doesn't really go anywhere. The next week, maybe they're a bit more social. The next week, oh, now you're friends. Or maybe you're at a club, you're at a party, right? You're at a bar and you engage someone and they just kind of smile or they don't smile at all. And they just kind of like go back to their friendship group or they walk off. Cool. Doesn't fucking matter. Move on to the next person, right? Your goal isn't to like, again, have amazing conversations, have you know, great engagements with everybody. Your goal is to be a first mover, to carry on the conversation if they want to, and then to get to a point where then some people want to continue to engage with you and they kind of like start to, go back 50-50. And then sometimes it kind of gets to a point where like the scales completely tip. You're doing like 10, 20, 30% of the effort and they're doing the rest. It really is that situation, right? I've had this many a times. People that seem shy at like clubs that I go to, like hobbies that I go to, and then I engage a little bit. I start the conversation, and then like I see them the next week, I engage a little bit more. All of a sudden, they're seeing me. Hey, how's it going, Josh? They're engaging more with me. So what I'm trying to say is there's very practical, very simple things you can do to get out of the loneliness epidemic, right? There really is. It's not that complicated. And yes, it will be challenging. But like I said in the beginning of the video, it will, like, you'll come through the initial discomfort. And what you will realize is it really wasn't as bad as I thought. Even the rejections, they weren't bad. Like, they just weren't. If I didn't take it personally, right? If I didn't start to overthink and think like and overthink and become super self-aware, and I literally just was like, oh, okay, on to the next one and just engage with someone else. If you do that, you realize rejection isn't bad. It's not that bad. Like, unless it's gonna be an extreme situation, someone throws a drink in your face, starts shouting at you, right? No one's gonna do that though. But if in the rare situation that happened, okay, fair enough. But like most situations aren't like that. Most people are gonna be pretty polite, right? Unless you're giving off really weird energy, which you're probably not going to. And if you do, well, you just keep going, right? If you're going through hell, keep going. But what you're gonna realize is it wasn't that bad. What was I scared of the whole time? And then once you break through that, it will get easier and easier. And then soon enough, you'll be like, this is actually kind of easy. It was initially difficult, and then it gets a lot easier, right? And then maybe the next time you go back and it's difficult, and then it becomes easy again. So it might take a while for you to get to a point where, like, on any given day, it's kind of easy to socialize. Like, I still feel the anxiety. I still feel that fear of like rejection, that fear of like being judged, of what people think of me. But when I just finally start to engage people and I start to actually be the first mover, and then I just start to be in conversations or be just to be engaged with people, be in the world, it becomes fun, it's enjoyable, and I realized there was nothing I should have been afraid of. So I hope with this video you can go out and you can start to socialize a bit more and you can start to realize the same thing. Because that's kind of the biggest thing I saw with myself, and I can see in a lot of people, especially guys, is that the reason you feel lonely, the reason, you're not dating, the reason like you would like to, but it just feels kind of hard and maybe impossible is just because you're doing a few simple things that aren't conducive of being social and of dating, people you want to date, right? You're just not putting yourself in social situations. You're just not being the first mover, and you're just not being the person that tries to carry the conversation or the engagement initially. If you put yourself in social situations, be the first mover, and carry the engagement initially, whether it's the first 30 seconds, minute, it doesn't really matter. You don't have to, there's no specific times, but just the initial part, because that's what everybody is afraid of, the initial engagement. If you just get used to doing that, the world's your oyster, my friend. All right. I'll see you soon. Peace.